The story begins with Makoto on the train, heading to school. He notices Kotonoha Katsura, a beautiful girl whom he has a major crush on. He has been taking the same train as her every day but is too shy to talk to her. He snaps a photo of her and saves it on his phone's wallpaper. Back in the classroom, his classmate, Sekai, sees the photo on his phone and offers to help Makoto hook up with Kotonoha. With her help they become friends, and Makoto asks Kotonoha out on a date soon after. That afternoon, Kotonoha tells Sekai about the date. She confesses that she also noticed Makoto on the train every day and has a crush on him too. Makoto meets Sekai at the train stop and thanks her for helping him. He offers to repay her, but before he knew it, Sekai kisses him on the lips, leaving Makoto confused. Makoto finally meets Kotonoha on their first date. After the date, Makoto tries to kiss her, but fails after his train moves off. At school, Makoto tells Sekai about his date, and she scolds him for trying to kiss Kotonoha too soon. Makoto counters by asking why Sekai kissed him before, but she claims that it was just a friendly gesture. Sekai gives Makoto a pair of movie tickets, and tells him to kiss Kotonoha in the cinema because it is more romantic. Following Sekai's instructions, Makoto attempts to kiss her in the cinema, but gets smacked in the face instead. The date ends awkwardly with Kotonoha apologizing and running off. The next day, Makoto tells Sekai about his date, and is scolded for acting too fast. He finds Kotonoha, and promises her that he will not force her to do anything she doesn't want. Kotonoha realizes that she should have been more understanding, and rushes to the train stop to meet Makoto. Upon seeing her, Makoto tries to apologize, but to his surprise, Kotonoha takes his hands and kisses him. She accepts him as her boyfriend, as Sekai watches them from a distance. The next day after school, Makoto and Kotonoha take the train together. Hikari, Sekai's friend, sees them and quickly texts Sekai to inform her that Makoto is cheating on her, but she clarifies that they are not a couple. The next day, Makoto visits Kotonoha at her house. Kokoro, Kotonoha's sister, is excited to see him. During tea time, Kokoro observed that Makoto was still calling Kotonoha by her last name, which was not usual for a couple. After the visit, Kotonoha walks Makoto back to the train stop. She finally reveals that she has been upset at him for not calling her first name. Feeling enlightened, Makoto greets her by her first name, which makes her happy. Before parting, she gives him a peck on cheek. This sudden initiative from her stuns Makoto. At school next morning, Makoto and Kotonoha are making out on the rooftop, but he is stopped when he gropes her chest. She tells him she isn't mentally prepared and leaves. The following day, Kotonoha meets Makoto on the train, and is about to ask him out for a date when the train jerks suddenly. He accidentally grabs her breasts when she lurches towards him. He quickly apologizes for touching her again. In class, Sekai asks Makoto if he was doing okay with Kotonoha. He gets upset and tells her about Kotonoha always being shy. Since Makoto does not know how to handle Kotonoha, Sekai volunteers to be his practice partner. Sekai brings Makoto to the school's rooftop to practice. This is where it starts to get steamy. Sekai starts by holding his hand and guides him to kiss her, but she calls for timeout just before they kissed and tells him that they were not kissing for real. Next, she asks him to pretend that she was Kotonoha. Then she shyly allows Makoto to touch her chest. Makoto finally unleashes himself. He pushes her onto the bench and undresses her. After the practice session, Makoto asks if he could practice with her again. To his disappointment, she rejects him and asks him to focus on Kotonoha. Makoto meets Kotonoha by chance and they apologize to each other, and she invites him to go to the pool on Sunday. Sunday arrives. Sekai and her friends with Makoto and Kotonoha all turn up at the pool. Sekai appears in a sexy bikini, showing off her body, catching everyone's attention. Yet, Makoto doesn't seem interested. Although Kotonoha is now more loving towards Makoto, Makoto still thinks about Sekai. He finally finds some time alone with Sekai, and cheekily feels her hips while asking if he could continue practicing with her. Along the way home, unable to contain his feelings for Sekai, he texts her to meet up. Although Sekai was caught in two minds, she meets Makoto anyway. He embraces her, and finally confesses that he is in love with her. Here, we find out that Sekai always had a crush on Makoto, but she decided to help him after learning about his crush on Kotonoha. That night, they made love at Sekai's place. Sekai feels guilty about their affair and wants him to come clean with Kotonoha. A couple of days later, Otome, Makoto's friend since middle school, accuses Kotonoha of always trying to get close to him. Kotonoha shoots back and announces that she is dating Makoto. This shocks Otome, who also has a crush on Makoto. Later, Kotonoha tells Makoto that she has to attend the committee meeting at lunchtime. Makoto uses this chance to bring Sekai to the rooftop to make out. Unknown to them, Kotonoha decides to leave the meeting early to surprise Makoto on the rooftop. But she leaves the scene without confronting them both. The next morning in the classroom, Setsuna, Sekai's best friend, announces that Makoto and Kotonoha has broken up and he is dating Sekai now. Later on, Makoto joins the planning board as a replacement to one of the members. Kotonoha notices him. She tries to talk to him, but Setsuna drags Makoto away with her, saying that he has a date with Sekai today. She takes his phone and blocks Kotonoha. The next day, Kotonoha tries to call Makoto but is unable to do so. At school, Kotonoha's classmates ask her to bring supplies for the school fair. As she leaves to get the supplies, she walks past Makoto. He decides to help her. As he reaches the storeroom, he finds out that Taisuke, Makoto's classmate, is already there asking Kotonoha to be his partner as she and Makoto has broken up. Kotonoha is shocked to hear this and furiously tells him that they have not broken up. She rushes out of the room where she faces Makoto and Nanami. Nanami accuses her of cheating on Makoto with Taisuke. Tears roll down Kotonoha's cheeks and she runs away from the scene. Later that evening, Sekai and Makoto are together at Makoto's home. Makoto unblocks Kotonoha and Kotonoha arrives at his home to check up on him. Makoto tells her that she can text her now and tries to send her away by saying that he needs to rest, but she notices an extra pair of shoes at his doorstep. Without mentioning it, she asks Makoto to be her dance partner for the folk dance, to which he does not answer. Meanwhile, Sekai is listening to all this conversation from across the room. She breaks down into tears and decides to leave once Kotonoha leaves. They both run into each other outside. Kotonoha slaps Sekai and calls her out for tricking her. The next day after school, Kotonoha asks Makoto to walk home with her, but Setsuna comes in her way. Setsuna asks Makoto to go to Sekai's home. Sekai tells Makoto about what happened last night. She explains how she feels bad about cheating on Kotonoha, but Makoto insists it's okay and leans in to kiss her. She stops it, leaving Makoto upset. Later on the train, Kotonoha offers Makoto to come to her place. She also finally allows Makoto to touch her breasts if he wishes to. Sekai is surprised by this sudden welcoming behavior by Kotonoha. Later on, while Setsuna and Makoto are walking alone, getting school supplies, Setsuna reveals that she will be soon moving to France and asks him to take care of Sekai once she leaves. After a while of preparing for the school fair, Makoto falls asleep in the classroom and Setsuna kisses him while he is asleep to create a last memory of him before she leaves. As she turns around, she finds out that Kotonoha has seen her kissing Makoto. Setsuna explains to her that she will be moving to France soon and it was just meant to create a memory of her own. Kotonoha leaves without saying anything. For the school fair, Kotonoha is handling the couples who want to go in the break room. It is an old tradition of the school where a couple can go in the break room and make love together. While Makoto and Sekai are given the duty of making cakes in the kitchen, Makoto tries playing around with Sekai's hips, forcing Sekai to hit him between his legs. After getting kicked out of the kitchen, he checks his phone to find out that Kotonoha has been texting him all day. Before he could leave, he is faced with Otome, his middle school friend. She confesses to him that she likes him and takes him to the break room. Makoto does not resist her and ends up making love to her in the break room. Makoto leaves the room and joins Sekai for the folk dance. Kotonoha searches for him, but Taisuke tells her that he has already gone to the folk dance with Sekai, which shocks Kotonoha. Taisuke tells her once again that he loves her, and before she could say anything, he hugs her. Kotonoha ends up sharing herself with Taisuke that night. Walking out of the room, she catches a glimpse of Makoto and Sekai kissing each other. The next morning, Makoto apologizes to Kotonoha about not going to the dance with her, and Kotonoha accepts his apology. In the school, Kotonoha tells Taisuke that she is still dating Makoto and he should forget whatever happened last night. Later that day, Setsuna informs Makoto that she will be leaving tomorrow. Kotonoha arrives at the scene and invites Makoto with her, but Setsuna stops him. Makoto finally breaks up with Kotonoha. Thinking that it is all a conspiracy from Setsuna, Kotonoha tries to expose her, but before she can say anything, Setsuna pushes Makoto to herself and kisses him. This breaks Kotonoha as she falls to her knees. Back in the classroom, Kotonoha's team members from the school fair invites all the girls to a party in the school for tomorrow, to which Nanami and Sekai agree to come. Later that evening, Makoto and Otome are seen making love again in the storeroom. Setsuna finds out about them. The following night, she goes to Makoto's home and confronts him about it. She offers herself to Makoto, asking him to break up with Otome in return. The next day in school, all the girls are gathered in the room for the party. It turns out that it's not actually a party. The break room managing girls reveals that they had hidden a camera in the room, recording all the couples which have been there. Nanami breaks down seeing her footage and Sekai sees Otome and Makoto sharing the break room on the screen. In a shock, she goes out in search of Makoto and runs into Kotonoha on her way, who informs her that he was supposed to be with Setsuna today, putting her in the belief that they are both cheating on her. Turns out that Makoto has been sleeping with Hikari as well. They continue cheating on each other partners for a little more while. In the meantime, 3 girls from class wonder if Makoto is actually that good in bed for all the girls to be wanting him. They plan to arrange a foursome with Makoto and he accepts it. During all of this, Sekai stays in her room in a depressed state thinking over why would Makoto cheat on her. While Kotonoha is starting to lose her mind, she keeps calling Makoto's cell phone even though she is blocked and talks to herself, sitting under a tree near the train station. Sekai finds out she is pregnant and informs Makoto. This puts everyone in shock and suddenly all the girls are scared of facing a situation like Sekai's. Everyone starts avoiding Makoto, which makes him realize all the wrong that he has been doing. Guilty, Makoto sits outside the train station remembering the good times he spent with Kotonoha. He looks around and finds Kotonoha in front of him. He hugs her and asks for forgiveness. Kotonoha tells him that she still loves him a lot. Both of them go for dinner together while Sekai is waiting for Makoto at home. She calls Makoto and asks him to come home, to which he refuses. Sekai guesses that he is with Kotonoha. She tells him that she is going out for tonight. Makoto takes Kotonoha back to his place. Surprisingly, Sekai decides to come back home and finds them both together there. She slaps Kotonoha, telling her that she is pregnant with Makoto's child, and asks her to leave them alone. Kotonoha finally decides to talk back. She reveals to her that her best friend, Setsuna, likes Makoto as well and that it was Sekai herself who made Kotonoha fall in love with Makoto. She claims Makoto to be hers and they both start to make out in front of Sekai. Sekai returns back to her home with a broken heart. Kotonoha recommends a clinic to Sekai to get her abortion. Sekai texts Makoto and asks him to meet her one last time at his place. He agrees to meet her. At his place, Sekai kills Makoto with a knife and escapes. Soon Kotonoha arrives at his place and finds his dead body laying on the floor. She texts Sekai and invites her at the school rooftop. Upon arrival, Kotonoha accuses Sekai of lying about being pregnant. Sekai denies her accuses. Kotonoha points towards a bag claiming that Makoto is here with them. Sekai looks inside the bag and finds out Makoto's head in it. Right after that, Kotonoha kills her with a knife and cuts open her belly to see if she was really pregnant. Turns out that it was a lie and she was not really pregnant. In the last scene, Kotonoha is seen sailing away in a boat alone while holding the head of Makoto. The series ends with the boat sailing into the sunset.